It's fantasy time, Kyle, once again for the Buschy McBusch 400. What a name. What a name for a race this weekend.
I'll be honest, sometimes I really don't get Busch's marketing team. They have some bangers. They have some swings and misses as well. And I think this is like a Bodie McBoat reference from like 4 years ago or whenever that was, that meme. I don't know. This is a interesting race name, and I can't wait to hear Mike Joy have to say it.
Yeah, this was fan voted, of course. They had a number of options, and this one took the cake. Right. Yeah. And it's just an interesting name here for Kansas. And, let's just get into the Buschy McBusch 400
that's the last time we're saying
fantasy
that.
preview. Okay, fine.
I'm not going to be able to handle saying it anymore.
All right. But I lead us off here for fantasy after winning Talladega. Question mark.
Shout out Chris Buescher for wrecking on the last lap, so I lose. But hey, you know what? Fair play. You had the bad luck having to use a Joey Logano usage because of a little mishap on your end, but still get the win, so at least it evens out a little bit.
Yeah, I'll still take that at the end of the day. I'm still in shock, honestly, that I actually won a super speedway race with that bad of luck. If Eric Jones was in my lineup, it wouldn't have done much better, considering what happened to him on the final lap. So
it would have been like 10 points better, like barely.
Maybe like that. It was very minuscule. But super speedways, we got above 100 points, so I'll take that at the end of the day.
I was like really just under something like that. It was not good.
Really low bar that we've set for ourselves on super speedways. But now we're back to our bread and butter kind of thing, where it's a little bit more predictable, these mile and a halves. But saying that, Kansas Speedway, it's a hit or miss track for a lot of these guys. There is a lot of contenders that usually come to play. Some guys show up in the stages, but then some guys are there at the finish, and they end up getting the actual overall points that you would want in your fantasy lineup, as some guys in the stages sometimes falter or something like that. So interesting to see which way we go here for our fantasy lineup here for Sunday's afternoon race at Kansas. A little bit different this time around. It's usually a Saturday night race for this spring event, but they're back to a Sunday afternoon one here in Kansas. So I'll start us off here with my first guy in my lineup. We just talked about him for the sponsorship. Kyle Larson is in my lineup this weekend. I was very fortunate to not waste the use.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm leading with him. I feel really good about Kyle Larson this weekend. Has had a couple of rough weeks here, disappointing at Richmond compared to what we expected from him at Ed Hedrick Motorsports Equipment. And then, of course, Talladega is just unfortunate there with him blowing an engine in the first 10 laps. But here at Kansas, he's always been a formidable force in Chip Ganassi Racing Equipment. Of course, didn't race here last season, but his average finish over the last 4 races here, 7.25, 3 top 10s, 161 laps led. The only thing that I'm worried about with Larson is that he's starting 32nd in this event. So he's going to have to make up quite a bit of time quite quickly, but that hasn't seemed to be an issue so far early on in the season for some of these guys. They can sometimes get some stage points, maybe that 7th to 10th range in that first stage, and then they kind of go for that stage victory or that top 3 in the second stage. So if I can get that from Kyle Larson this weekend, I'll be very, very happy. And I think with his performance on the mile and a half tracks this season, he's a very good bet to get a good finish here at Kansas.
Yeah, I've got Kyle Larson as well. The usages are starting to trickle down a bit low there on Larson. I think I've got 6 left on him, but I think this is a very, very good bet on him this weekend. The big thing for me is, in addition to having some really solid results with Chip Ganassi at this track, looking at 60 laps led in his last race here at Kansas in 2019, despite finishing 14th, leading 101 in a 4th place finish in 2018 as well. Big thing for me is that they've been the fastest 550 horsepower package team so far this season. 4th at Homestead, probably could have finished a little bit higher as well. 1st at Vegas, and a dominant performance at Atlanta to finish 2nd. That's a 2.33 average finish to lead the series at 550 horsepower package races this season. I would be very surprised if they're not up there getting big stage points despite finishing 32nd, and up there contending for the win, if not in the final stage for most of this race. So Kyle Larson easily in my lineup as well, even with the usage situation.
Yeah, I feel good about Larson. So you start us off here, or you continue on with your second pick.
Yes, second here. Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum, shall we? We go to 32nd for our first starter.
Oh, okay.
Let's go to the pole sitter. Brad Keselowski, coming off of the win at Talladega, matching Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon at Talladega. He was very strong here at Kansas last year, finished second in the regular season race, finished fourth here in the playoff race, won Kansas in the regular season race in 2019 as well. Some very strong results so far this season. The Penske team has been kind of hit or miss so far at the 550 horsepower package races for Keselowski specifically. Homestead, they obviously had the weird strategy call at Atlanta. He was running well and then had the contact with Martin Truex Jr., but finished second at Vegas and probably in normal circumstances would have won if Kyle Larson wasn't there. But given the starting position, is in a very good spot to get some good stage points. I've still got a lot of usages left on him. I've still got 9 left on him here. So I'll take the swing on Keselowski as a Penske entry here.
I cannot believe you have 9 usages left on Brad Keselowski.
Every time I put him in my lineup, he's had something dumb happen. So,
oh man, do I put him in my lineup now after saying that? Now that it's in your lineup,
there you go. And the one usage I have had on him is at Martinsville when he had the wreck and cost me a win against you. So,
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. I'll leave Keselowski a little bit for now. I'm to be determined on him. I'll just see what you kind of go with from here. But yeah,
of course,
the 2 car is to be determined on my end.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go with his Penske teammate for my second selection here, Ryan Blaney. Okay. So this may look a little bit off the board if you look at the numbers, but if you want to look at a guy that's had terrible luck at a racetrack, it's here at Kansas Speedway. I could name, I think, 3 times off the top of my hand how many times he's been snake bitten here. One time was with Kyle Larson after he had damage there on a restart back when the 42, and then they got together. He crashed last season. He got into the wall, and then he was running in the top 5 basically for the most of that day. He's just always been so good for the first 2 stages, hasn't been able to quite execute it, hence his poor average finish being 20.67 over his last 6 races, 2 top 10s in that span, 80 laps led. He's starting 7th, so he's near the front of the pack. I expect some pretty solid stage points in the 12 car this weekend, and I think this is definitely a track. When I look at my usage situation of being 7 left on him, I can pull the plug on him on him here. I feel really confident in Ryan Blaney this weekend. The numbers may not support it, but from my eye test and how much I visually remember Ryan Blaney being at the front of these races, I like him as a bet for my second selection here for fantasy.
I disagree a little bit with the fact that the numbers don't necessarily say so, because the average finish might not say so, but if you dig a little bit deeper, there is definitely some reason to believe Ryan Blaney can be a good shout here, because he's led laps in 4 of the last 6 races here at Kansas. He's finished in the top 10 in 50% of his races at Kansas. He's 6 for 12 there, so at least getting some solid finishes, even though they might not be the super high end. And he's also been the best in terms of average finish this season, Penske car at 550 horsepower packages, with a 5th place at Vegas and obviously winning Atlanta. So I'm not going to go with Ryan Blaney here for this one. I'm going to stick with Keselowski as a Penske shout for this one, but I got to say, I do like the potential value you got there with Blaney.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Cushman.
He was on my radar.
Kind words. Yeah, he was near the top of my list this weekend. I'm very confident in the 12 car.
I like it.
He's my guy this year, man. I said it in the preview show. Like I'm pretty high on Blaney.
I gotta say, some of our picks there are looking pretty good. I had William Byron as a surprise driver, bounce back driver. He's looking damn good. Blaney as a breakout driver, looking pretty good. Some of the other stuff, less so, we don't need to talk about. But
we're not going to talk about my bounce back driver of the year.
Those 2 are looking good. But anyways, your next pick, sir.
My third selection for this weekend. This should come as no surprise to you. You kind of played a similar card to me. Played this similar card last week for fantasy, but just in a little bit of a different scenario. Can you remember who can you guess this pick might be?
Was this a preseason winner pick? Is it Christopher Bell?
It is indeed. Christopher Bell is in
there we go.
my lineup.
Nice.
Very good, Mr. Cushman. Yes, Christopher Bell is in my lineup this weekend. Average finish last year, 16.5. Was involved in an incident here in that summer-ish, spring, whatever you want to call it, that summer race. I guess it was the early race at Kansas last year, and that kind of derailed his average finish. But he finished in the top 10 in the fall race here in the playoffs, which is no slouch for Levine Family Racing Equipment in a playoff race at Kansas when it was very difficult to pass, as we saw in that fall race where Kevin Harvick was following Joey Logano for 40-plus laps to end that event, the most excruciatingly painful race maybe I can remember in recent memory. But Christopher Bell, nonetheless, I feel really solid about him this weekend. He won an Xfinity Series race here. His first Xfinity Series race victory was here in Joe Gibbs Racing Equipment, of course, beating out Eric Jones. And, of course, he beat Eric Jones to this seat for this season. So I like Christopher Bell a lot this weekend. Adam Stevens usually brings a pretty good setup for Kyle Busch around here at Kansas. I could see that translating for Bell. And, of course, he likes to run the wall a little bit, and that's pays dividends here a little bit at Kansas Speedway. He starts 8th as well. I like the track position. I like all the factors here. He could be a good value usage for me this weekend. I have 8 usages left on the 20 cars, so I feel good about Christopher Bell as my 3rd selection.
It's a good shout. I don't mind that one. Obviously, the
I'm
good
sticking to my
position,
guns.
looking for a good result there. I like that, sticking to your guns there. And if I stuck to my guns as well and put DiBenedetto in my actual lineup as well, then we're talking about we're doing this a little bit opposite in terms of our order here. But I am not going with Christopher Bell. So a couple differences early on here. I am going with one of his teammates, however, and it might not be the one that you expect right away. I'm going Kyle Busch for this next entry here. He's been sneakily very solid here at Kansas in recent years, looking at a 5th place finish in the playoff race last season, an 11th place finish in the regular season race the year before that, 3rd place finish in the playoff race the year before that, 2nd place finish in the playoff race at Kansas. So better results in that playoff race versus the regular season race. But the big thing for me is Kyle Busch is one of 4 drivers this season to finish in the top 10 in every single 550 horsepower race so far this season. 10th at Homestead, 3rd at Vegas, 5th at Atlanta. I like that trend so far this season for that 18 team, so I think that they could be some potentially solid value here with a solid starting position as well.
Interesting. Going with a Busch in that title name of the race.
I know. I was teeing you up for it. Yeah.
I didn't say it.
Going with Kyle Busch in the Buschy McBusch Race or what?
Buschy McBusch Race 400.
Oh, just a terrible, terrible name. But I do have the next pick as well.
Yeah.
And for this next one, let's keep the theme going. I said drivers that have finished in the top 10 in each of the 550 horsepower races this season. The next guy on that list that is in my lineup is Mr. Consistency so far this season. My surprise driver this season, William Byron. They have just been super, super consistent these last few races, like top 10 finishes galore. Kansas has been a solid track for Byron these last few races. Finished 5th here in the 2019 playoff race, followed it up last season with 2 top 10s, 10th and 8th. This year, they've been firing on all cylinders, especially recently. Super, super consistent. And that 550 horsepower kind of rhythm they've been in. 1st at Homestead, obviously, but then 8th at Vegas and 8th at Atlanta as well. Might not be a top 5 threat necessarily, unless they maybe find an extra little step here. But I think they're an easy threat to finish well inside the top 10 here. So William Byron is my 4th entry.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I really looked heavily at William Byron, and I'm gonna not go with him this weekend. Okay. I love the selection. I really do. I'm gonna play it a little safe here on William Byron. I think there's at some point in time the consistency might end, and the numbers here at Kansas just give me a little bit more skepticism than some of the other tracks that we've seen in the past. So I'm gonna stay away from William Byron for my fantasy selection, but he will reappear here in a later little bit.
Stay away from him, right?
Yes. The opposite of that, of course. But for my 4th selection here, I'll go with the pole sitter. I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski for this one. I'm going to play it safe. I have the usages left on Keselowski. I have 7 usages left. I feel confident in that number when I look at the remainder of the season here, for the regular season, that is. He's got an average finish over the last 6 races of 7.67, 1 win, 3 top 5s as well, 76 laps, not 700. And he starts on pole, as you mentioned. So Keselowski just seems like a good all-around threat here. I don't know if he necessarily win the race, but I think a top 5 is definitely what the 2 cars should be shooting for this weekend. I always have a bit of hesitancy to go with a guy that won the previous week for the next week for fantasy. I don't know. It's just something in my brain where I just feel like, oh, man, it's definitely possible something could happen to the 2 car, which would be unfortunate for both of us in this situation. But I feel good about Mr. Keselowski here for my 4th selection for fantasy. I go again here.
Yes.
Number 5. I don't like going first for these because I like having this little bit of leeway here, but I'll go.
Yeah, you like reacting.
5.
You like putting me in a corner.
Yeah, I do, and that's why it usually pays off because I'm the best. But no, number 5. I'm going to go with a bit of a swing on this one. Maybe. Alex Bowman. I'm going to go him in my lineup, and the reason being that fall race last season. Finished 3rd in that one, was right there in contention. Probably had the fastest car at the end of that race, but we all know that it's difficult to pass. He's starting 25th in this one, so I'm going with 2 Hendrick cars that are starting mid-pack near the rear of the field. But over the last 6 races here, he's got an average finish of 8.5, 4 top 10s. He's been very consistent, and I think this is a good value usage for Alex Bowman this weekend. I'm a bit reserved on the heavy hitters as much, if you want to call them that this weekend. The Denny Hamlins, the Martin Truex Juniors, the Chase Elliott's, Kevin Harvick's, Kyle Busch's. I don't even know if Kyle Busch really falls in that category right now, but nonetheless, those guys, the guys that we expect to score the most points right now at these kinds of tracks. I'm in a bit of a usage bind here for some of them, namely Martin Truex Jr. being at 6 usages. So I'm going to play it safe here. I'm going to go with Alex Bowman as my 5th selection for fantasy.
I've also got Alex Bowman here. I've got 3 Hendrick cars in the lineup here with Byron and Larson and Bowman as well. I feel good about them on the 550 horsepower package races. And Bowman as well so far this season. 9th at Homestead. 3rd is the big one at Atlanta. Obviously had some issues at Vegas there. But for Bowman here, the big thing is the recent performances at this track. 9th in the playoff race in 2018, followed up in 2019 by a 2nd and an 11th. Followed up last season by an 8th and a 3rd place finish. I think that they've got a lot of mojo around that team coming off of that win at Richmond, a surprising win for everybody on that team. They're much better on the 550 horsepower package tracks, as seen by a couple of the results so far this season. This is a track that Bowman's good at as well. Not the greatest starting position in the world, but I'm not super concerned about that. Alex Bowman, definitely in my lineup as well. Which brings me to my final driver for this weekend. And it's interesting that you were talking a little bit of trash on some of the heavy hitters, because I'm going to one of those heavy hitters. It wasn't
trash. It's just, I love them a lot this weekend. I'm just, I
got 7 usages left on this guy. He leads the series in points. He's been super, super consistent. He's got 2 out of the 3 past wins here at this track. Denny Hamlin is in my lineup here. Look, JGR, I got to have another entry in there. And when I'm looking at Denny Hamlin, 4th at Vegas, 4th at Atlanta, I don't see any reason why he won't get another top 5 here. If not, go out and finally get that first win of the season. That team has been dominant this year, except they haven't won a race, which is strange to say. But it seems like every single race, they just pick up the most stage points and finish quietly inside the top 5 and get like 40-plus points every single race. So looking at some of the past results here, 2 wins, obviously back-to-back in the playoff race in 2019 and then the regular season race here last year. Not the same finish, obviously, in the playoff race last year, but I feel very, very solid about Hamlin here. Again, not a great starting position, but not super concerned about that. But Denny Hamlin is going to be the heavy hitter that rounds out my lineup.
Yeah, I can't pull the plug on Hamlin right now.
What's your usage like for him? Are you on 7 as well, or are you less? Okay,
6.
Right, because you used him in the 500.
Yeah, so I have to, this is the week where you're going to catch up to me with Hamlin usages, I imagine, unless something happens in those first 2 stages kind of thing.
What are you for Larson usages, by the way?
7. So,
okay, so
I feel
for the reverse. I've got 6 left on Larson.
Yeah, because you used Larson in the 500. Right. So, yeah. So that makes sense. So we're going to end up equal here on Larson and Hamlin after this weekend.
Well, no, because I've got likely. I've got Larson.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So boom. I love to hear that. My last pick for this week. So you discussed Denny Hamlin. He's out of my lineup 100% this weekend. I like the 11 car. I do think he has fluked into some of these race wins a little bit at Kansas recently. Those last two that come to mind, a couple of restarts there go his way.
You got to be there to get lucky.
I understand that, but I think the 11 car, the numbers may suggest that he's better here at Kansas than maybe that he is. And you make sure you clip that when he wins this weekend so that I look like an absolute fool.
Please put him and stay away from him.
No, he's in my honorable mentions 100%, but I do think he is, a little bit overrated, maybe to an extent this weekend. So I'm the starting position as well. But for my last selection here, I can't go with Martin Truex Jr. as well because his usages are way too valuable. Mile and a half, so give me a bit of a pause this season on him as well. He's been kind of, here or there. Atlanta was a bit disappointing, but that's entirely different kind of track.
Funny you say that,
Vegas, but
because he's the only other driver that we haven't mentioned yet that has finished inside the top 10 in each of the 550 horsepower tracks, except they aren't like the dominant performances that you would expect from Truex. 3rd at Homestead, 6th at Vegas, 9th at Atlanta, trending in the wrong direction as well. Just to mention that Larson, Byron, Truex, and Busch are the only ones that have finished inside the top 10 in each of the 550 horsepower races so far this year. But I definitely agree with Truex there. I just think it's too risky, especially when you look at the amount of road courses coming up.
Exactly. That's the key for me with Truex. And, I could use Truex, honestly, for the remainder of the season and feel good about him basically in every single race, apart from maybe super speedways. But he's just an all-around threat. And just Kansas here, there's too many other options for this specific racetrack to look at him as a usage. But if you have him more than like 7, 8 usages, play him this weekend. I think he's definitely
maybe if he got
valuable.
7, I would think about it.
Well, fringe. But 8, 100%, you play him this weekend and just hope for the best, because I think some people are going to be in trouble with Martin Truex Jr. usages at this point in the season of how well he has actually turned out to be in some of these racetracks. So for my last selection here, for the long stall that it was there, for my last selection for fantasy this week, I'm going to go with Kyle Busch. I'm going to finish my lineup out with Mr. Busch in the Buschy McBusch Race 400.
There it is.
I liked your selection here earlier, and the key for me here, he won a stage here last season, one of his very few that he won in a race
That's right. It was
season.
The first stage winning, right? Yeah.
So it was a huge race here for Kyle Busch. I thought that's where his season might turn around. Unfortunately, that did not come to be the case for him, and I'm hopeful that this could be the place where he actually gets it done this weekend. And another key for me, he's running another series this weekend, the Truck Series race, and he's going to be running the Cup Series race, similar times of day as well. I think that could translate a little bit of success for him. I like the starting position. When you look at what's around him in given starting positions, Michael McDowell inside that top 5 there for starting position. He's most likely going to fall back.
Michael McDowell. Don't do it.
I'm just saying, for first stage points, I expect Kyle Busch to get quite a few if he doesn't beat himself at the end of the day, and that's what happens with Kyle Busch lately. He's been beating himself a little bit, and that's what's been unfortunate for the 18 team. So I'm hopeful that he can turn it around this week. I'm going to match you on him. I've got 7 usages left on Kyle. I'm a little bit nervous with that number, given how much of value I think he could be on some of these road courses. But nonetheless, I think Kansas is a good mile-and-a-half track for him to be played at. If you asked me that at the beginning of the 2010s, I would have said you're crazy. But now at the beginning of the 2020s, I feel good about Kyle Busch in my lineup as my last pick.
Alrighty, so there it is. William Byron and Denny Hamlin against Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell for our differences here. That's a nice little head-to-head there, I got to say.
Man, that sucks. I like Denny Hamlin, man, but I can't use him. Shoot. But before we get into the bonus picks, let's look at the honorable mentions this weekend, because I think there is quite a few valuable ones. Kevin Harvick, despite his performances on the mile and a halves, he has been very, very good since he's come here to Stewart-Haas Racing in the number 4 car. There's no denying the numbers.
About using him. Yeah,
he's got a good starting position here. But it's just, I like him at some other tracks here that I could potentially find a little bit more value in him in when there's a little bit more of a scarce amount of drivers that I could look at, namely, a Michigan or something like that later on down the line. But, I think Kevin Harvick, if you have the usages left on him, I have the usages. I'm going to play it safe here and go against him this weekend. But he is definitely an honorable mention. Denny Hamlin, I mentioned him. Martin Truex Jr., of course. Chase Elliott actually has the best average finish amongst active drivers here over the last 6 races.
I thought you might give a Chase Elliott shout. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, and I have 8 usages left on the 9 car, and you can obviously believe where I'm going to be playing a lot of those at the road courses, but this could definitely be a place where Chase Elliott breaks through this weekend. And
I really thought about it.
I would not be surprised. I just like his Hendrick teammates a little bit more for a value perspective than what he can get at these road courses.
I'd rather use Elliott as 750 horsepower package track.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he could be in the contention for a victory this weekend, does Chase Elliott, but I'm going to say that he's an honorable mention for me this weekend. Of course, Kyle Busch, I mentioned him in our lineups. Cole Custer, surprisingly good finishes here last season for Stewart Haas Racing, along with his teammate Eric Almirola. So they could be some of these guys if you have gone heavier than us at the beginning of the season.
Pick. Yeah.
They have decent starting positions in this one as well. 18th for Almirola, and Cole Custer starts in 10th. So that's not bad for considering where they have been for the start of this season. And they, hopefully they can ride a little bit of momentum here with that starting position and get some stage points or just get a solid finish at the end of the day. That's the most important for those guys. One of the big ones here, Tyler Reddick. He was one of the guys that was talked about the most among the broadcast team in the July race here last season. He was back and forth up to the pack. He just rode the wall very early on in the stages, and we were mesmerized by his speed. Just didn't quite get those finishes, but I think RCR has come a long way since then in terms of their 550 horsepower package program. So I could see him being a valuable play this weekend, considering their performance so far this season. William Byron, of course, you have him in your lineup. I do not, but I think he's definitely one you can look at this weekend. And then Matt DiBenedetto as well. I put him as my honorable mention. Despite the numbers not being so great for him, I just think there's something here with that 21 car at Kansas. I've seen in the past this car has done decently well getting top 10s. This seems like a track where he could duplicate. I think it was that Vegas run that he was having inside that top 10. I think there's a bit of correlation between the two tracks, between here and
don't sleep on
Vegas.
DiBenedetto, man. They've been on a good run of form. They're all the way back up to 17th in points after being not even inside the top 30 after 2 races. A lot of people were concerned about that team as potentially being out of the playoff hunt, and after a few good results, they're all the way back and only 12 points out of a playoff spot right now. So they're riding some good form.
To stay away from. So who's going to end up in victory lane this weekend? There's 3 of them. Eric Jones, because of his average finish and the equipment that he's in. He's got spectacular numbers here. I just would want to play it safe with Eric Jones here this weekend.
You're not worried about usages at all. If you need a conservative pick, I was going to mention him as an extra man to watch because this Richard Petty team finished 10th at Vegas as well. So they've shown a little bit of speed, obviously disappointing at Homestead and Atlanta, but I'm keeping my eye on Jones because he's been really good here. That's all.
I love Jones. I think it could be a match made in heaven here for this weekend.
Stay away from label though. Wow.
I just want to give a bit of pause. The average finish numbers may lead people to believe that he could have a better run than you got to remember it in context. Yeah. So I'm going to just put him in that category for now. Kurt Busch in the Buschy McBusch Race 400. He's going to be a stay away from. Just hasn't been on a great run of form lately. Kansas has been a mediocre track in his career, so I would just play it safe for Kurt Busch this weekend.
Chip Ganassi hasn't been great at the 550 horsepower tracks either. Obviously had a great run at Homestead, but that's very different in terms of a high wear track. There's more driver skill involved in that one. Outside of that, they haven't had the fastest cars at 550 packages yet. So I would definitely use my Kurt Busch usages at 750 horsepower packages or higher wear tracks.
Yeah. The last one here, I'm not confident in.
Oh boy.
Can you guess who it is?
Logano?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree though.
Yeah,
they haven't been good at 550 package tracks yet.
That's it. Yep. Despite him winning this at this racetrack, the most recent winner here at Kansas Speedway, I just can't see the value in the 22 car this weekend, considering what his teammates can do and the plethora of options that we have amongst the field here at Kansas. Logano, of course, most likely will get a top 10 finish here, but is that really what you are looking for Joey Logano usage? No. So I'm going to put him as a stay away from. So he is your victor this weekend at Kansas Speedway. So I would not be surprised, to say the least, on that one. But that does it for the honorable mentions, stay away froms, and our fantasy picks. But now we have the bonus picks, the crucial element here where it kind of decides the weekend usually here for fantasy. We sometimes differ, sometimes agree. Let's see what it is here for Kansas. Who starts us off here for this one?
I do.
All righty. Go for it. Top Chevrolet.
Top Chevrolet for this one, which is an interesting one because I've got 3 of them in the lineup as well. And we mentioned how Chase Elliott's a decent shout as well. But I'm going to go with Kyle Larson as my top Chevy here. I feel really, really strong about them on 550 horsepower package tracks. I feel good about the whole Hendrick stable, to be honest, going into this weekend. But Kyle Larson is going to be my number 1 guy for there.
Yep. He is for me as well. Chase Elliott was the other guy I looked at for this one just because I don't have him in my lineup, but his speed on 550 horsepower package tracks this year has just been unmatched. So he's a no-brainer for me for top Chevrolet, and he'll be there when the finish. When the checker flag falls, Kyle Larson will be there at the end of this thing in contention, most likely for a victory. Top Ford. If you didn't kind of guess it from my reaction to picking him in fantasy, I'm picking him here for the top Ford finisher. Ryan Blaney gets this one for me this weekend. I'm really, really high on Ryan Blaney. I could see a very similar situation to what we had at Atlanta with Larson and Blaney battling it out for the victory. I think Blaney's going to be a very, very solid guy this weekend, despite not having the best average finish. I think he'll be the top Ford finisher here.
Yeah, I really like that Blaney shout. I'm just going to go and try and maximize my points here. So I'm going to go with Keselowski for this one as my lone Ford in the lineup here. I think Harvick could go out and do it if they surprise a little bit. I just need to see it before I start using them again. But Keselowski starting at the front, maybe that clean air helps him out throughout this race because we've seen many times that's the common denominator between success at this track. But Keselowski is going to be my top 4 here.
Top Toyota. Quite a few options for this one.
Yes, and you lead this one off.
Do I?
Yes, snake style.
Oh, yep. Oh, okay. Top Toyota finisher. Damn, this is tough. This is a really, really tough one. Because I don't have him in my lineup this weekend. No. You know what? I'm going to go off the board here. I'm going to go with the guy, because it's the Buschy McBusch Race 400. Kyle Busch.
You need
your
to
top
simmer
Toyota finisher.
down. Holy.
I'm going with it. I'm going bold. I feel good about it. I like him this weekend. I think he could do some damage. I'm going to say that he edges out his Toyota teammates.
I can't wait to garage him now after he wrecks out on lap 1 because of that pick. So I am going with Denny Hamlin here. They have been the mantra of consistency, even though they've been beaten out most of the time by a Toyota teammate. I like Kansas as a track for Hamlin. Not the great starting position, but that doesn't matter for this one. It's all about where you finish, and Hamlin's always been there at the end of the season. So Hamlin is my guy for this one.
Alrighty. Winning manufacturer
for this one is a tough one because I think you could go with any of the 3 and feel pretty safe about it. For myself, though, I'm feeling good about that Hendrick stable, so I'm going to go with Chevrolet for this one. Maybe a bit of a risky one here, just given obviously the JGRs and the Penske's of the world, but I'm liking what I've seen from Hendrick so far at the 550 horsepower track so far this season, so I'm going to go with Chevrolet for my manufacturer.
Interesting.
You're trying to scheme up something over there.
Okay. I'm going to go with Ford.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Ford. I like their options this weekend. I like Blaney quite a bit. I like Keselowski. I like Harvick. I think they could all be up there in contention for it. Logano, of course, he could be in there because I have him in my stay away froms. I think Chevrolet's a very good shout this weekend, considering all 400 cars could probably win this race this weekend. But I just think Ford could be just that little bit more on a winning scale than the consistency that Hendrick Motorsports will probably bring.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see how that one plays out because I could hear an argument for any of the 3 manufacturers there for sure.
Yeah, it's just I would. Toyota's probably the least just based off of numbers-wise this weekend. But saying that, I think all 4 guys could probably win this race this weekend, including Christopher Bell. They just have pretty good speed on these 1.5 mile tracks this season, and they could just have a wow factor with that team. So winning organization, this is a big one as well. These two can decide the week here, because you've gone with Chevrolet, I've gone with Ford. I'm not going to be doubling down on Team Penske here this weekend. I'm going to differentiate my lineup, diversify it, and I'm going to go with Hendrick Motorsports here for my winning organization. I feel really good about Hendrick with Larson itself. So just in case he does win, because I imagine you're probably going to pick him for the race winner pick, I want to have that little bit of buffer there for just in case he does win the race this weekend, and I have those 10 extra points.
Well, it's not going to matter because I've got Hendrick as my winning organization as well. So I'm doubling down on it, because if they win, well, you're not making up 10 points on it, because I'm doubling down Chevrolet and Hendrick as the winning organization. I'm stunned by that. Yep. I'm
stunned.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't think you were going to double down at this track because it just has so many options. But
I'm doubling down and I'm tripling down because it's time for our winner picks.
No.
And you had it exactly right. Kyle Larson is my winner pick for Kansas. He's been solid here with Chip Ganassi. He's led laps here with Chip Ganassi. They're the top team at 550 horsepower package tracks so far this season. They've been a top 5 threat week in, week out at those with this package. Should have won Atlanta, if we're being honest. Won Vegas. Was a little bit disappointing at Homestead, and he finished 4th. So Kyle Larson is my winner pick here at Kansas.
Damn you, Mr. Cushman.
Thank you.
The one time I win a super speedway race and then it bites me in the butt the next weekend. Like I would have rather lost last week to
all the strategy play.
Yeah, you were just anticipating Chris Buescher's spin out on the last lap.
What can I say?
See, I'm in a dilemma here because, you were a good sport last week. At Talladega, you picked Matt DiBenedetto here for your winner pick. But
okay, it's a little bit different picking a random guy at Talladega versus Kansas.
Because it was a first-time winner pick when we first did those in the preseason.
Yeah.
And Christopher Bell's already won a race this season, so I don't really feel the need to play him for this race winner pick this weekend.
No, you do not have to. No.
So, okay. I just wanted to get that approval
from you here.
Very different
circumstances, yes.
I felt like it was, but, I just wanted to run it past you quickly.
Talladega, which is pick a name out of a hat versus Kansas, which is a little bit more predictable.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that out there, just in case.
I appreciate that.
So people don't be like, "Well, you picked Christopher Bell." So no, I'm not going to be picking Christopher Bell for my Cup race winner pick here. I've been pretty high on this guy the entire episode. Yeah. Okay.
Do it. Do it.
Yeah. I feel really good about him.
The name of the race. Do it.
Kyle Busch.
Hey, he did the thing. He did the thing. Let's go. He did the thing. Wow, look at this man go. He did the thing. Bravo.
I've been peer pressured into this, and I'll still take it. Honestly, I like the paint scheme that he's going with this weekend. So
what's he running this week?
M&M mix, so it's like a new kind of version of it. It looks pretty sweet. Not saying that just because it's M&Ms and it's sweet chocolate.
I'll look it up quickly here as you give a soliloquy about Mr. Busch in the Buschy McBusch race.
Yeah, I think it's written in the stars, if you want to call it that, with Kyle Busch ending up in victory lane here. It's been named this for a reason. This is going to be his breakout race this season. Won a stage here last year in this event. He wins the race here this time around. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Busch relevant car in victory lane. Kevin Harvick could potentially get it done with the sponsorship kind of thing. But, with you taking Kyle Larson, I think he'll probably win this race this weekend. So that's unfortunate.
Larson's running the HendrickCars.com scheme as well, which he won with. So it's looking pretty decent with both of our picks there in terms of the storylines of it.
Yeah.
But the 18 scheme. It's like the classic 18, but like it's a little bit different. So I'm on board.
All right, thank you. But yeah, I hope that he can just get a solid run this weekend, man. Like I just need that.
If we're being
so
honest,
bad.
usually it comes down to the bonus picks anyways for who wins. That's how it's gone in the last few times because we've been very close in terms of the overall point scores for our team. So
Yeah.
interested to see which way it falls because if Hendrick wins, I basically got it sealed. But if anything else happens, then I think it blows it wide open.
Yeah, I went all three different kinds of things. So
Yep.
Ford, Hendrick, and Kyle Busch.
That's
So
right.
I went kind of all over the map here. We'll see if one of them hits. Hopefully, I don't know. I was really close to putting Ryan Blaney as my race winner pick. Like I feel really good about
And then
the 12
Larson
car
versus
this weekend.
Blaney again. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
but
That would have been fun.
that was my second shout. But we'll take Kyle Busch for the Cup Series winner pick. So let's just go through our lineups one more time here, Kyle, and the bonus picks as well. You start us off.
Yes, I've got Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, and then my differences from your lineup there of William Byron and rounding it out with the heavy hitter of Denny Hamlin. For the bonus picks, Larson top Chevy, Keselowski top Ford, Hamlin top Toyota, Chevrolet for winning manufacturer, doubling down with Hendrick as the winning organization, tripling down with Kyle Larson as the race winner.
Damn, what a good lineup. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. What can I say? I'm jealous of Kyle's lineup this weekend. But for myself, I've gone with Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Busch being the similarities there. The two differences being Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell. For the bonus picks, for top Chevrolet, I've got with Larson, top Ford, Ryan Blaney, top Toyota, Kyle Busch, winning manufacturer Ford, the winning organization, Hendrick Motorsports, and then, of course, to end it all off, the Cup Series winner pick, Kyle Busch. Haven't done that the entire season. Felt good to maybe predict it. Hopefully it
When's the
becomes a
last time
reality
you
here.
picked Kyle to win a race?
I don't
It's
even
been
want to
a
think about
long
it.
time.
It's been a while.
You usually stay away from it, but
yeah, it's just
Alrighty.
too much to go against this weekend here
and
at Kansas
if
Speedway.
he wrecks out lap one, you cannot blame my peer pressuring.
Well, yeah, I know. I hope to God that doesn't happen, man. Just make it at least 2 laps. That's all I need.
Two laps is your request.
Maybe this is just foreshadowing here, but Ty Gibbs just won the ARCA Menards race at Kansas. No surprise there. So maybe we can see
Real
the
surprise
18
on that one.
The 18 car in victory lane twice this weekend, maybe even 3 times if Chandler Smith can break through in the Truck Series event that's going to be happening after you've already seen this episode. So, yeah, looking forward to the Cup Series race here at Kansas. Should be an exciting one. Kansas does a pretty good job of delivering. The restarts are always chaotic there off of turn 2. Could expect a wreck here and there because it usually does happen later on in the race. It gets pretty dicey down there, and looking forward to seeing it. Looks like there's a pretty cool thing in the pre-race as well with Clint Boyer and Patrick Mahomes. So that could be very interesting to see how they've handled that situation. But your final thoughts here for NASCAR Fantasy, Kyle, before we wrap up today's episode.
Yeah, fun one here. A nice couple of lineups for us both. Feels definitely nicer to actually look at numbers versus Talladega, which is like loosely looking at numbers and then just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. At Kansas, it's a little bit more straightforward, but we got a jumbled lineup here coming off of Talladega with some very, very strong cars starting in the back, 550 horsepower package. So chaos on restarts to be expected. Should be an interesting one. That's for sure coming up this weekend. And of course, a big race come playoff time. So a lot to be gained potentially from a lot of these prospective playoff teams for this one.
Yeah, it's the middle race in the penultimate round of the playoffs there. In the round
because
of
they
8
switched it with that's
Texas.
Right. Yep.
So shall be interesting to see what happens this weekend at Kansas Speedway. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Green Flag Pod, as well as Twitter at The Green Flag Pod. We'll be active on there throughout the weekend. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. We really appreciate it. The channel growth has been pretty solid over the past couple of weeks, so thank you so much for all your support on that front. But for this episode, I've been Lukas Wacker. He's been Kyle Cushman, signing off for now. We will talk to you to recap, or I will talk to you to recap the Kansas race next week.